Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm Andy RC and today I'm checking out the Shuriken 250 from Holybro. This has been sent in for review direct from Holybro, but it can be bought from various shops which I will link in the description. Its price is around $249 or 187 GBP. It is a ready-to-fly 250 racer that is designed to be bound to your favorite transmitter and to be flown with as little setup time as possible. It is designed to be a competitor to the Vortex Pro, but at a fraction of the price. It comes in a nice carry case. The quad is slimline. None of my other 250 size quads would fit in this. Out of the case, the props are already fitted. It has an FPV camera with a built-in on-screen display up front. You just have to add a 3 to 4S battery, a transmitter, and a pair of FPV goggles, and in theory, you are ready to go. The quad has Shuriken branded 2205-2550 kV motors with 3-leaf 5040 props. The ESCs are hidden in the body, and they are 30-amp B-Al-Hali Opto ESCs with one-shot 125 and motor braking enabled. The flight controller is the SP Racing F3. It's loaded with clean flight but will support Betaflight. I will be reviewing it as it is out of the box. This version comes with the FreeSky XSR receiver. However, it is available with DSMX and Futaba Fast protocol as well. In fact, as this is an SP Racing F3 board, you can pretty much add any receiver you like to it. The frame has 4 elements to it. There is of course a top plate, and then a red plastic spacer that runs all the way around the quad, as well as having struts inside to keep it rigid. There's then 2 bottom plates. The first one protects the solder connections on the printed circuit board, and the other is the PCB which contains all of the components built into it. The ESCs and motors are easily removable, however, which is good news. The flight controller's IMU has been isolated onto a foam pad to reduce vibrations. The camera mount up front is multifunctional. It is vibration dampened, and it houses the 700 TV line Smas camera, which has a 2.8mm lens on it, and is switchable from PAL or NTSC via a dip switch hidden on the back of it. You can adjust the camera's angle up front, and the mount doubles up as a GoPro mount with holes in the side of it for Velcro straps. I have fitted my Foxeer Legend 1 camera to it, so part of the camera will get in shot of the FPV feed. However, that's not too much of a problem, because the angle that I like to fly in causes the camera's red mount to get in shot at the sides anyway. I would have liked to have seen the camera mounted further forward to avoid this. If you fly the camera at its full angle, then you don't get anything in shot. However, that angle is too extreme for my style of flying. The quad is fully contained with its electronics inside. However, you are given quite a few access points in the top. The bottom button on the right is the channel selector for the VTX. It has the full 40 race channels. A long press changes the band of the frequency, and a short press changes the channel within that band. The button above that is the bind button to the XSR receiver. You hold it down while powering on the quad with the battery and then bind your Taranis in D16 mode. It will not work with the European version of the Taranis' firmware, but more on that in a bit. The bottom left is the on-screen display's on and off button. You can switch that on or off on the camera feed. Hidden just underneath the battery bay are dip switches, which switch the USB port on the back of the quad to configure either clean flight or the on-screen display, which is quite nice. The on-screen display is the open source multi-Wii on-screen display, the same as I set up on my Mini Owl build. The low voltage warning on the on-screen display is definitely set too high. I need to go in and change it, as low voltage often flashes up on the on-screen display when there's plenty of juice left in the battery. As well as having an on-screen display, the quad has a low voltage beeper as well. This is also set too high and goes off too early. This can easily be changed in clean flight. It's set to go off at 3.7 volts. I have changed mine to go off at 3.5 volts. In front of the battery there are two jumpers. This changes the VTX power from 25 milliwatts as standard to 600 milliwatts when the jumpers are positioned closest to the center of the quad. This is so in an organized race with other flyers you can dial down the power of the transmitter so that you don't swamp everyone's signal. Next to that, we have the SMA's antenna screw. The quad comes with a right-hand polarized cloverleaf antenna that works very well with my IonWay antennas. You need to make sure that the antenna is plugged in before you power the quad, otherwise you could fry your VTX, and that will be very hard to replace with it all being built into the PCB. For the battery, I'm using a Luminaire 1300 4S from Get FPV. The quad comes with these nice fitted Holybro battery straps. At the back we have the XSR antennas, and I actually had some problems with this configuration. I kept receiving a low RSSI warning on my Taranis. I think this is because the majority of the receiver's diversity antennas are sat inside the quad. It would be better to feed them through the top plate in a V formation, but that would require undoing all of the screws to get at them. Also, there's no telemetry on this receiver. All that you have is the RSSI feed. You don't have any battery voltage, but that's fine because we've got a on-screen display and a buzzer as well. We also have an XT60 connector at the back for the battery plug. It's a really clean looking design and the frame is totally rock solid. There's no movement whatsoever. I think this one could stand even the toughest of crashes. Underneath, you are given a CG reference. The quad should balance on your fingers at this point for best results. The all-up weight with my camera is 675 grams, which isn't too bad and is comparable to my other 250 quads. The arms are pretty thick, which causes a good section of the prop to be covered by it. I can't help but think this would cause some inefficiency with the power and flight characteristics. However, hopefully that has been ironed out in the tune. As this is an RTF racing quad, I'm hoping that it has been tuned to the best that it can be. However, just like the Florian I reviewed a few videos back, it's usually the case that you need to tune it to your own liking. For me, this quad wasn't as simple as taking it out of the case, binding it to the transmitter and flying. Let's find out why. So the Shuriken comes with the FreeSky XSR receiver, but I have a problem with it. It has been shipped with the international version of the firmware and my Taranis is the EU version. Furthermore, they have made it really difficult to upload the EU version of the firmware because they have removed the pin header from the receiver to solder this cable here into the S-bus port of the quadcopter. So you can see I have removed all of the screws from the quadcopter to remove the top plate here. And what I had to do in order to get this little connector to go into the back of the Taranis to upload the EU version of the firmware, I had to make this little cable here. So I got hold of one of the little 4-pin connectors and soldered very gingerly a servo connector on the back to plug into the back of the Taranis. It was really fiddly, and furthermore, this cable here is plugged into the S-bus port of the receiver, and of course to upload the EU firmware it needs to be on the smart port, which is the 3rd pin along. So I had to cut all of this away, desolder this, solder it to the 3rd pin along, and then plug it into the back of the Taranis and upload the firmware, solder this pin back and plug it back in, and it now binds. But it was a pain. I suggest that they sell an EU version of the FreeSky receiver as well as the international version so that everyone can buy this quadcopter. You are given quite a few different accessories with this one, including a spare set of props, a couple of sticky pads, an external plate to mount a different receiver to, You are also given a servo wire for a different receiver that plugs into the spare receiver ports. We have 2 spare UARTs and also a spare PPM port. You are given a handy prop removal tool which slots into the side of the motors and allows you to easily undo the nuts to remove the propellers. I really like this. It means that you don't get your hand cut up, and it would be pretty difficult to do it with this model anyway, because you can't access the motors at all, so you would not be able to grip them with your hands. You are given a couple of cable ties, a 4-pin to 4-pin pigtail lead, perhaps for adding an external device such as a GPS or something like that. A spare camera mount and SMA connector. I guess it's known for both of these to break off in a bad crash. We have a couple of spare screws, some stickers, and a Velcro strap for your desired camera. That's about everything. I'm going to use my Fat Shark Dominator V2s to record the footage. Let's go and take it for a fly. So before this flight, I went into Clean Flight to check the settings, and it doesn't have any mode set up. It's got arming off a switch setup and air mode and acro, and that is it. So I went ahead and added angle mode and horizon mode as well as acro on a 3-position switch. I also set the beeper up on a switch as well, so if you crash in long grass, you can flip a switch and the quad will start beeping and you'll be able to find it. So I am using the stock PIDs here. I have changed the rates. I think the rates were at 0.6 as standard or 0.65, and I boosted that up to 0.75. I usually fly with 0.8, but as I wasn't sure how this was going to fly, I thought I would set the rates a little bit lower than normal. And I'm afraid to say that this quad has not been tuned to the best that it can be. I guess I'm spoilt with my Betaflight tunes these days, but as you'll see when I do rolls and flips, we are getting wobbles and all sorts of things. But the good thing about this quad is it does have the raw materials to make it really good. We have those 2205 motors and the 30 amp ESCs. It runs on a 4-cell, so all I have to do is install Betaflight, and because it's using the SP Racing profile, then I can go and do that, and it's going to be great, I think. It's just a shame that it's not great out of the box, You'd think that they will get someone to tune it to the best it can be and release it like that, and if they did that, they would be onto a winner. But I guess they are thinking that because this is a hobby grade quadcopter, really, if you've got a Tyrannus and you're binding to it, you're already at the hobby grade level, so they probably figure that you can tune it to how you like, and maybe this is tuned to how the manufacturer likes and many other people like. But you'll see there that when I'm doing a roll, we are getting a wobble and back bounce and all sorts of things like that, so I'm just not pleased with that at all. You see, the controls feel very woolly. Of course, this is all done in acro mode, but one thing that you will get from this is that those motors absolutely scream. They have got so much power, so I'm impressed with that. And I think, just like the Florian 250 and the JJ Pro P200, with a good tune, they're going to be absolutely fantastic, and I think this one will be too. So I need to go ahead and do that. One thing you'll notice is I'm not flying too far away from myself, and that is because I keep getting a low RSSI warning on the Tyrannus. And I think that is because the majority of the antenna is inside the quadcopter. And the quadcopter frame is pretty thick, it's using carbon and those plastic side standoffs there. So I think that is why I am getting the low RSSI warning. I didn't have any failsafe or dropouts, interestingly, but that was quite worrying, so I need to go and mod the antenna. So there you go, that is my review of the Holybro Shuriken. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, please continue to subscribe. Cheers.